I'm doing well, thank God. Christ is risen.
Truly, He is risen. Thank you for having me here at your beautiful parish here in Riverside, California. We're actually inside the chapel. What's the name of this chapel?
This is the chapel of St. John Chrysostom here at St. Andrew Parish. I'm the assistant pastor. This is Father Josiah's parish.
Yes.
And I'm here with Father Thomas as well, and we are assistants to Father Josiah. But this is the beautiful chapel of St. John Chrysostom, and it is our daily chapel and our funeral chapel, if you will.
It's very beautiful. And you guys just had liturgy here because it's your
We did,
feast
yes.
day, right?
Happy feast. We
Yes.
just had liturgy in here for the Holy Apostles Jason and Sosipater of the 70. Yes, so thank God, thank you.
So if you guys live in the California area, specifically Riverside or LA, come check out St. Andrew Orthodox Church. It's so beautiful here. So Father, today I wanted to talk a little bit about a few things, but mainly I wanted to talk about the idea of unseen warfare. There's a very popular book that is popular among the Orthodox Church. Could you tell us a little bit about this book, Unseen Warfare, and also the topic at hand?
Yes, the Unseen Warfare. It's a magnificent book. It's a spiritual classic. It has a fascinating history. And actually, I'm so excited that you bring it up because I was exposed to the book that it itself is based on, called The Spiritual Combat. That was my first exposure to this spiritual manual. That this has become for us a classic in Holy Orthodoxy. The book itself originated in the Roman tradition, actually, in the Roman tradition by Dom Lorenzo Scupoli. Dom Lorenzo Scupoli wrote this book as a spiritual manual. I'm thinking in the 15th century. I'd have to review the notes I have on this, but on the 15th century he wrote it and he used it and he continued to add to it. And it was in the Western tradition, it was known as the spiritual combat. And it was such an impacting book that St. Francis, the Roman Catholic saint, St. Francis de Sales, read it and he fell in love with it, and he would carry it in his back pocket wherever he would go. And he would constantly take it out and quote it to people. This is in the West. Well, eventually, Saint Nicodemus of the Holy Mountain, in his work that he did with the Philokalia and printing books and everything, he went and encountered this book, presumably in one of his trips while he was printing work in Italy. And when he was there, he encountered the spiritual combat and absolutely saw the treasure that it offered. And he took it and orthodoxized it. He edited it a slight bit. There were some sections that he left untouched, and there were some sections that he really had to revisit and orthodoxize extensively. And eventually, once he finished his work on this, he printed it and offered it to the Orthodox people and made it clear that it was not his original work, that he had edited the text, but that it was from a different author. And the people received it with much joy. They saw the treasure that it offered. The Unseen Warfare is the title that he used for it. Down the road, later on, Saint Theophan the Recluse, the Russian saint, took Saint Nicodemus's work and further redacted it and expanded upon it. There were some sections too that he left untouched, completely the same, and some sections that he added extensively to it. And that's the more or less, that's the version that we get nowadays in English. That's where the English version comes from the version that Saint Theophan the Recluse took. So really, it's this wonderful book that originated in the West, found its way into the hands of this monastic and spiritual giant, Saint Nicodemus, and then eventually into the hands of another giant in the monastic life, the spiritual life, Saint Theophan, and now it's available for us to read in English. And there are some translations available in Spanish for those that might be interested. There are some available in Spanish. I know that there's some renditions out there. Forgive me for mentioning this. I'm doing a very brief study about it, like an intro on some of the subjects that are found in the chapters in Spanish. in Spanish. So if anyone's interested or knows someone that might benefit from it, we're looking at these. We can't look at every single chapter. That would take forever. And I don't have the permission to do every single chapter. So I'm taking little snippets and translating it, and bilingually even sharing it with people on our channel on Via Ortodoxia in Spanish. But the unseen warfare for the Orthodox people has become a manual as to how to live the spiritual life and what it means to be called to spiritual perfection. What do you have to do? How do you rely on God? How do you distrust yourself? How do you persecute your passions? And how do you gain victory? The unseen warfare tells us that it begins by explaining to us that this unseen warfare is something that all of us are called to, and that is the most difficult war or battle or struggle that we will ever be involved in, because the enemy is yourself. You're trying to combat yourself. This is not negating the fact, and it does speak briefly about this too, maybe not so briefly, about how there's external influences fighting against us. That's understood, of course. But really, it's about us overcoming ourselves, our passions, our temptations, our vices, our addictions, and how to overcome that. How to learn to properly distrust ourselves completely and put our sole trust and confidence solely in God, and to learn and accept and understand that what He desires is nothing else other than for you to be victorious. He wants you to be victorious, and He's there to help you. But it's because we forget who we are. And the most recent one we released, which covers, it's a big section, the sections 3 through 10, chapters 3 through 10. But in that section, we emphasize in the Spanish that the text itself emphasizes that we forget who we are at times. We have like the spiritual amnesia. We forget to live like sons and daughters of God. But nevertheless, He's there to help us. And the authors of this book want us to know that, and the phrase says, all are losers except they that go to God. Only the ones who put their trust in God will be victorious in this unseen warfare. And this is the Christian life. This is the Christian life. There are many parishes, for instance, during Lent that read this in some of the services, read the unseen warfare. It's a magnificent text. Some people have a tradition of reading it during Lent, or as they approach Lent, to get them focused on this inner struggle.
What are some practical ways that we can purify ourselves from the passions?
Practical ways to purify ourselves from the passions. Well, as an Orthodox Christian, I would say, as a priest, I would say the first thing that one should do, and I'm saying this from my own experience, is that once a passion has been identified, once your spiritual father or you yourself have seen this particular sin is not just an occasional sin, this is a recurring theme. This is something that I fall into more often than I should. This is a theme in my life. Once you identify that, then you go to your spiritual father, and first you go to confession. If you've fallen back into it, you go to confession. That's the first practical thing that one can do when one falters. Run to holy confession. This is part of the medicine that Christ wants to give us. This is part of the therapy, right? To go and receive the holy medicaments, the holy ointments, so to speak. Some of the sacraments are ointments, the unction of the sick, but the holy chrism. But you go to the priest, you confess these things, and then ask them. Chances are your priest might say, look, it's enough of this. We need to come up with a plan. He may invite you to come and meet for a pastoral counseling session so you can come up with a plan to overcome this. And I encourage the people or the person who is trying to overcome these things to indeed meet with their priest. If they haven't had a chance to have this interaction, go to holy confession if the priest didn't say anything, because sometimes there's a lot of things going on and the priest didn't get a chance to articulate this to you. You yourself go to the priest, make an appointment, and start to devise a strategy to overcome this. This is an enemy, And whatever it might be, it has no part in your life. It should have no part in your life. It's destroying you. It's destroying you. So recognize that Christ wants you to overcome this, and He is the victor. He's the conqueror of death, and this passion is something that is leading you to death.